Lily Brooks had been working the midnight shift at Rosie's diner, leaving her with sore feet and a pocketful of small tips that wouldn't even cover her prescription drugs for the next day. Hoping for a miracle, she counted the crumpled cash again and hung her apron in her locker. $27. Insufficient. Never enough. Lily, you're going home? Marge, the cook, inquired, her face furrowed in worry. Lily smiled artificially. Just need some air first. Her thin jacket was sliced through by the November chill outside. She had received the news from the doctor 3 months prior. Her organs were gradually dying down due to a rare autoimmune disease. She might have a year left if she didn't get the experimental treatment that her insurance wouldn't pay for. At 26, Lily had started taking nighttime walks around the city in an attempt to experience every feeling and every second of life. Her wanderings tonight brought her to the steel arches of Harrington Bridge, which sparkled in the city lights. Ethan Carter used to take pride in his corner office on the 47th floor. It served just as a reminder of what he had lost. He was soon to be removed by the board, but the nameplate on the door still reads CEO. Mark, his business partner and best friend, had planned the entire affair, wooing Ethan's wife and persuading investors to turn against him. His assistant placed the divorce papers on his desk and stated, "Mr. Carter, the papers are ready for your signature." Ethan looked at the family portrait he hadn't taken off yet and nodded absently. For weeks, his 17-year-old son had refused to answer Ethan's calls, siding with his mother. That evening, Ethan ended up strolling to Harrington Bridge after finishing a bottle of 30-year-old scotch. There was no plan. There was nothing left in his life. Lily saw him right away. Pricey coat, high-end shoes, and the distinctive stance of someone who gave commands instead of receiving them. He swayed a little as he stood at the railing, staring down at the Black Sea below with a disturbing intensity. Lily's body moved before her thoughts could react when he raised one leg over the ledge. She shouted, her voice echoing in the night air. "I'd give anything to have a choice, but I don't. Time is running out for me." Ethan, the man, turned, his red-rimmed, unfocused eyes. "What?" Lily took a step forward, her eyes unwavering but her hands shaking a little from her medicine. "I'm battling so hard to keep something, and you're gonna toss it away." His voice was thick with emotion as he continued. "You don't know anything about me." Lily answered, "I know you have a choice." When she lifted her sleeve, the medical alert bracelet and the numerous IV bruises were visible. "Needles. I have 6 months left, and if I'm lucky, a year. I get up every morning hoping for one more day." Ethan Carter hesitated for the first time in months. Lily saw Ethan's expression change from one of despair to one of perplexity. After hovering over the edge, his foot gently made its way back to the bridge's walkway. He turned to face her fully, his knuckles white on metal as he grabbed the railing. "Who are you?" His voice was husky as he inquired. Lily said, pulling her flimsy jacket firmly over her as the wind increased. "Just someone who doesn't want to watch another person die tonight. 2 blocks away there's a diner. The coffee is good and the temperature is warm." Ethan's pricey coat fluttered about him like dark wings as he gazed at her for a long time. "Why would you give a damn?" As she turned to leave, she added simply, "Perhaps I need the company as much as you do." To check if he would follow, she didn't turn around. As they walked into Pete's all-night diner, the bell over the entrance jingled. The cracked formica tables were harshly lit by the buzzing fluorescent lights overhead. Although Lily's workplace wasn't Rosie's, it was comparable. $2 could get you coffee and a makeshift haven. They moved into a window-facing booth. Without being asked, a weary-looking old waitress handed them coffee. After they had sat silently for a few minutes, Ethan noticed that your hands were shaking. Lily glanced down at her shaky fingers gripping the mug. Adverse drug reaction. There are bad days and good days. He questioned directly, "What's wrong with you?" and then flinched at his own lack of tact. "Autoimmune disease is uncommon." Lily said, "My body is essentially declaring war on itself," with a practiced casualness that belied the seriousness of her statement. "The expense of the care I require exceeds the tips I will receive as a waitress in 10 years. "You work as a waitress?" At Rosie's Diner, I work double shifts most days and triple shifts when I'm able. Ethan grimaced at the bitter flavor of his coffee as he took a drink. Not a family. Dad is somewhere. Mom passed away when I was 16. It's been years since I heard from him. It was obvious from Lily's tone that this was not a topic for debate. How about you? What drives a man to a bridge in the middle of the night wearing a coat that most likely costs more than my rent? Ethan's mouth clenched. Everything I've constructed is falling apart. My spouse, my business, and my bond with my son. Tell me, Lily said with genuine interest rather than courtesy. Unexpectedly, he did. Word of Mark's treachery poured forth. His alleged buddies had voted against him at the board meeting. Arriving home early to discover his best friend and wife. Jacob, his son, texted him. I no longer wish to see you. That's it. Then, when things get tough, you just quit, Lily said after he was done. Anger surged in Ethan's eyes. What it's like to lose everything is beyond your comprehension. Do I not? Lily pushed back. I've lost most of my dreams, my future, and my health. To buy myself a few more months of life, I work till I can hardly stand, but I'm still here. You're telling me this, but why? Suddenly uneasy with her intensity, Ethan asked. Lily gave a feeble smile. Because you might be able to give someone who still wants to fight a little of your life if you're about to throw it away. Something she said cut through Ethan's self-pitying haze. He had dedicated his life to accumulating riches, influence, and power, only to find that none of these things promised loyalty or happiness. But here was a person who had nothing and was struggling to breathe. If you had my resources, how would you respond? More to himself than to her, he inquired. Live, she said plainly. Not merely exist in between treatments or shifts. Live really. There was a growing sense of possibilities in their stillness. Finally, Lily pushed her half-empty mug away and murmured, Look, you weren't brought here to make a charity case. It was impossible for me to see you jump. Ethan examined her closely, noting the dark lines beneath her eyes, the obstinate expression on her face, and the way she maintained her composure in the face of adversity. Something beyond sadness stirred inside him for the first time in months. He reached for his phone and said, My driver can take you home. Lily gave a headshake. I'm able to handle it. The subway is still in operation. In your state at this hour? Ethan scowled. She answered with a tinge of pride. I've been managing on my own for a long time. After a moment's hesitation, Ethan nodded. I'm grateful for tonight. Lily got up and grabbed some crumpled cash out of her pocket to buy coffee. Just make me a promise. Just give it a week before you go back to that bridge. Why? Because after a restful night's sleep and a daybreak, the world appears differently. Mr. CEO, 1 week. Ethan called after her as she turned to go. How am I going to locate you again? Lily stopped at the entrance. On 22nd Street is Rosie's Diner. I spend most days there. She looked at him one last time. Or perhaps you won't search. Perhaps tonight served as a sufficient reminder that you still have options. Most of us get less than that. Ethan was left alone with his refreshing coffee and the first flicker of what felt dangerously like optimism as she vanished into the night. Ethan Carter struggled with himself for 6 days. He went back to his penthouse apartment, ignored his lawyer's calls, and sat on his balcony watching the sun rise and set. He took a shower, shaved, and changed out of his customary fitted suit into trousers and a basic button-down shirt on the morning of the 7th day. For a Tuesday afternoon, Rosie's Diner was busier than he had anticipated. As he walked in, the bell rang, and a few customers looked up before going back to their food. Ethan saw Lily right away. Though he saw how she occasionally balanced herself against a chair when she believed no one was looking, she moved between tables with practiced skill. In her section, he slipped into a booth and waited. Her eyes brightened in recognition as she came over holding a coffee pot. She poured coffee without asking whether he wanted some, saying, You really came. I promised. Lily nodded toward the window 1 week. I assume the bridge lost its appeal because you're still here. For now, Ethan acknowledged. Paler than he remembered, he examined her features. There are more dark circles beneath her eyes. How do you feel? I am employed, am I not? With her free hand, she pointed to the diner. Give me a moment. I'll be taking a 10-minute break. Ethan watched her work while nursing his coffee. Lily captivated him, as he had dedicated his professional life to assessing individuals. She laughed with the cook, recalled names, and smiled at customers sincerely despite her obvious exhaustion. She navigated the world as though she recognized its worth. She slid into the booth opposite him when her break came. You look awful, he remarked plainly. Lily's face changed when she made the startling sound of laughter. The charmer always. I had a difficult night because of the pain. Comes and goes. Ethan traced the rim of his mug and started. I've been thinking about what you said about giving some of my life to someone who wants to fight. The request was not literal. Lily's eyebrows narrowed as he interrupted. I know, but I have a proposition for you. Mr. Carter, I'm not searching for charity. Ethan, he said, and it's a contract, not charity. What's the matter? The words caught in Ethan's throat as he hesitated. He was not accustomed to being powerless. He had used control, wealth, or power to solve every issue for years. However, his marriage had not been saved by any of those factors. His son has not been returned by any of them. He said, I don't know how to do this. I have no idea how to assist someone who refuses assistance. Actually, though, I can't just leave. Lily looked closely at him. What do you anticipate receiving in exchange? To his own surprise, Ethan said nothing. Just a reminder that saving lives is still important. Why would you help a stranger in this way? Her voice was tinged with suspicion. Ethan gave his response considerable thought. Because when you spoke to me, I experienced something other than numbness for the first time in months. Because I might be able to find my own purpose in life if I can help you find yours. Lily's eyes remained steady as she assessed. In exchange, what do you want? Just your time, he said. He hurriedly added, not in a strange way. Simply show me your perspective on the world. How you persevere in the face of overwhelming odds. They were silent for a long time. Lily finally said something. Don't try to give me money if you truly want to assist. Instead, spend time with me. Before this sickness takes over, make me feel alive. That's all. She told him that was all there was to it. I will also not accept your money. Not right away. Please use the hospital's financial support program if you would want to contribute to my treatment. Anonymously, Ethan wanted to protest, but he could see how obstinate her jaw was. Okay, deal. Lily looked at the clock and remarked, I have to go back to work, but when my shift ends tomorrow at 4 p.m., if you're serious, come see me here. Ethan gave a nod. I'll be present. He placed a $100 tip under his coffee cup and left once she went back to work. He called his helper as soon as possible. I want you to learn as much as you can about autoimmune diseases and experimental therapies, Angela, and made a sizable anonymous contribution to Metro General Hospital's financial aid program. Ethan was 15 minutes early the next day. He observed from the window as Lily went outside after giving her apron to another waiter. With a tone of amazement, she said, You actually showed up again. I promised to. Lily looked at him for a while. Fair caution. My lifestyle isn't really luxurious. I'm helping out at the community garden 3 blocks away today. Those shoes will be wrecked, but you're free to join. Ethan grinned as he glanced down at his Italian loafers. Take the lead. Ethan Carter, who had never raised even a houseplant, spent the next 3 hours knee-deep in mud sowing seedlings with the help of older volunteers and neighborhood kids. Lily went between them, laughing, instructing, and encouraging. Nobody there was aware of her illness. She was just the pleasant young lady who came every Tuesday, as far as they were concerned. As they admired their work on a bench at sunset, Ethan came to a stunning realization. He hadn't spent the day thinking about his failing marriage, his firm, or the bridge. Why do you garden? He questioned. With dirt lingering beneath her fingernails, Lily grinned. Being a part of something that develops appeals to me. Whether I am or not, these plants will still be here in springtime. Her comments struck him with unexpected force despite their simplicity. Both a future she might see and one she might not was something she was planning for. Ethan stated strongly that you will be. These will blossom. Lily did not respond, but she did squeeze his hand for the first time in their short time together. Ethan had to live two lives in the weeks that followed. During the day, he engaged in distant conflicts with his board of directors and divorce lawyers, only following the procedures to preserve what was left of his business. However, Lily's universe, which functioned on completely different principles than his own, was where afternoons and evenings belonged. Ethan was irritated and preoccupied when he arrived at Lily's apartment complex one Tuesday night after his third attempt to contact his son had gone straight to voicemail. His driver was obviously not fond of the neighborhood where the modest 5-story walk-up was located. Expecting their customary excursion to a local event or somewhere that she wanted to show him, Ethan knocked on her door. Rather, carrying a duffel bag over her shoulder, Lily opened the door. She said, "Pack a bag," her eyes gleaming with a vitality he hadn't seen in days. "Just the necessities, a little one." Ethan blinked. "For what purpose?" "Road trip," she said, as though it were clear. "For the weekend only. I have arranged my treatments around it, saved up sick days, and discussed it with my doctor. I have meetings, Lily." "Cancel them," she said. "When was the last time you took action without weeks' worth of planning?" Ethan opened his mouth to protest, but stopped. "Which meetings?" The further the corporation retreated from him, the more vacant his calendar became. He refused to speak to his son. Mark already had his soon-to-be ex-wife living with him. Instead, he asked, "Where are we going?" Lily grinned. "We don't know yet, and that's the purpose." They were driving north in Ethan's little used Range Rover 2 hours later. Despite the cold, Lily pulled down her window after tinkering with the radio until she discovered a station playing 80s rock. Over the music and wind, she yelled, "The first rule of a proper road trip is that you need to feel the air change as you drive." They stopped at a tiny inn that resembled something from a postcard at evening after crossing into Vermont. Lily insisted on having her own room. "I recommended that they have dinner in the inn's restaurant, but I'm not that sort of girl, CEO." Lily was already seated and deeply focused on the menu when Ethan walked downstairs. She had changed into a plain blue outfit that contrasted with her pale skin, highlighting her eyes. As he sat down, she stated that she was trying to decide whether to be realistic with the chicken or indulge in the steak. "Ethan recommended that you get both." Lily gave an eye roll. "What a wealthy person's solution." He said, "You're a rich person tonight." After giving this some thought, she smiled. "Okay, but we're going to eat at a diner like everyone else tomorrow." Lily pulled a crumpled piece of paper out of her purse during supper. She smoothed it on the table and stated, "My unofficial bucket list. Since the diagnosis, I have been adding to it." Ethan went over the contents. Try ice skating, dance in the rain, plant an apple tree, eat lobster in Maine, see the ocean at dawn, and tip a server $100. Watching his face, she explained, "That's what this weekend is about, checking off what we can." "All of these are doable," Ethan said, astonished by how modest her aspirations were. That's what Lily was saying. "If I might not survive until Christmas, what good is it to wish to see Paris? I'm looking for things that I can truly experience." They took a car to the main shore early the following morning. When the sun rose over the Atlantic, Lily was standing on a rocky beach with her arms extended. She later closed her eyes in ecstasy as she had her first taste of lobster at a tiny seafood shack. "Well worth the hype," she said, oozing butter from her chin. Lily took Ethan's hand and dragged him into the center of an empty parking lot. That night, when they were walking back to the car, due to an unexpected downpour, she was already spinning in the rain when she insisted on dancing with me. As the rain soaked his pricey clothing, Ethan complained, "I don't dance." Lily giggled and said, "Everyone dances. Some merely require authorization." Reaching for his hands, she put them on her waist before wrapping her arms around his neck. A sensation that Ethan was unable to identify rushed through the gap as they swayed uncomfortably in the rain. Rain continued trickling down Lily's hair as she turned to face him later, huddled in the car with the heater blazing. She asked abruptly, What would you do if you had only 1 month to live? The question was too personal for Ethan, so he remained silent. After a minute, she added gently, I'd love without fear. The love I'll never be able to give is what worries me the most about dying young. When their gazes locked, Ethan sensed a change, a passage over an imperceptible line. He tentatively reached out and brushed a lock of damp hair away from her face. Lily. She lightly touched his lips with her fingers. Not just yet, she muttered. I'm not prepared to have that discussion. Lily slept soundly in the passenger seat on Sunday night as they made their way back to the city. With a clarity that was both frightening and thrilling, Ethan realized that he was falling in love with a dying woman as he looked over at her, taking in the soft rise and fall of her chest and the relaxed curve of her mouth. The drive that had created his empire was now solely focused on saving Lily's life, and Ethan couldn't recall the last time he had experienced such a severe sense of urgency. He threw himself into his research in the weeks after their road trip, enlisting the help of contacts at pharmaceutical companies, medical researchers, and experts around the nation. He converted his home office into a war room. Every surface was covered with medical journals. Data from clinical trials appeared on his computer screen. With caffeine and perseverance, Ethan worked through the night while keeping to his daily routine with Lily during the day. As they strolled through Central Park one cool day, Ethan said to Lily, Dr. Patel can see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Every few minutes, she had to pause and recover due to her extremely high level of fatigue. Who is Dr. Patel? She lowered herself onto a bench and asked. Among the top immunologists in the nation. He's flying in from Johns Hopkins specifically to... Lily added abruptly, sharply, Wait, you made this arrangement without consulting me? Perplexed by her response, Ethan sat next to her. Lily, he's the finest. He's created a new protocol that could... Hold on, she said. Simply stop. I don't get it. Do you not want to recover? Of course I do, she responded, her voice displaying exasperation. However, we didn't agree to this. Instead of using my illness as a pretext for your next corporate takeover, you vowed to help me survive. That's not my purpose. Is it not? Lily pushed back. After days of being preoccupied, checking your phone non-stop, and vanishing for enigmatic meetings, you're now making doctor appointments for me without asking? Ethan combed his hair with his hand. I'm attempting to assist you. Ethan, I didn't beg for a miracle. I asked for time. My life cannot be purchased in the same manner as everything else. Her remarks hurt him more than he thought they would. It's unfair. No? Unsteady yet resolute, she got to her feet. How much have you already spent, please? 50,000? 100,000? Ethan turned his head away. The real number was more like 500,000. I thought so, Lily answered, her voice a little softer now. This has nothing to do with me. You can't mend your marriage, your business, or your relationship with your son. So you need to fix something. Ethan objected. That's not true. But uncertainty began to creep in. Was she correct? Was he using this as merely another means of control? Lily finally remarked, I think I need some space. Although I respect your efforts, this is not what I desired. Please, Lily. I'm going to take an Uber home. She had already taken her phone out. I mean it, Ethan, don't follow me. He wanted to chase after her as he watched her go, but he respected her decision. Despite the fact that it felt like torment, he granted her plea for space for 3 days. He stared at his phone, waiting for it to ring, despite his best efforts to divert his attention with work. He drove to her apartment on the 4th day because he could take it no more. He knocked and got no answer, so he tried again. Nothing has changed. His chest constricted with worry. Lily's elderly neighbor, Mrs. Abernathy, entered the hallway just as he was ready to go. She remarked, worry etched on her aged face. If you're looking for Lily, they took her to Metro General last night. The poor thing fell down in the corridor. Ethan's universe would have shrunk to a thread if I hadn't heard the thump. He hurried to his car, scarcely remembering to thank the woman. Citing patient privacy, the hospital first declined to provide him any information. Before a weary-looking doctor agreed to talk to him, he had to use all of his power and offer a sizable donation to the hospital wing. The doctor informed in a quiet voice that Ms. Brooks had severe organ inflammation. Her illness has worsened more quickly than we expected. Ethan was unable to complete the inquiry. Is she stable for the time being? Her immunosuppressants have been upped, but this is alarming. Even with our current treatment regimen, the condition is getting worse. Is she available for me to see? The physician paused. She expressly requested not to have guests while she is sleeping. It was as if someone had hit Ethan. Was I specifically mentioned by her? She did, Mr. Carter. After losing, Ethan spent hours waiting for Lily to change her mind in the hospital waiting room. He picked up the phone as soon as it rang, but it was just his assistant who had company news. Without answering, he hung up. As night fell, a nurse felt sorry for him. She said as she went by, "Room 412. Now she's awake." Lily was propped up in bed and appeared smaller than Ethan had remembered. The monitors next to her beeped steadily, and sci-fi lines slithered from her arms. When she saw him, her eyes grew wide. She responded, "I told them no visitors." But her tone was devoid of genuine rage. When did I start adhering to the rules? Ethan walked over to her bedside and tried to smile. "You look awful," she said. "You do too." A faint smile appeared on her lips. The charmer always. Ethan took her hand in his and sat cautiously on the bed's edge. "I apologize, Lily. You were correct. I was attempting to maintain control because that's all I know how to do is that. I apologize for pushing you away," she murmured quietly. "I felt afraid." Of what? Tears filled Lily's eyes. Of wishing. Ethan remembered the doctor's remarks. Hope is dangerous when you're dying. Even with our current treatment regimen, the condition is getting worse. Isn't there something they're not telling me? Lily read his face and asked. Ethan thought about lying, but then recalled their pledge to be truthful. They're not getting the desired results from the treatment. Lily took this in and nodded gently. For what length of time? They're not positive, but... She finished for him, but... less than we anticipated. They sat silently for a while. The seriousness of the situation began to sink in. Finally, Ethan mentioned an experimental treatment. Boston. Although it has showed potential in similar circumstances, it is not a cure-all. Lily shut her eyes. More misplaced optimism. Ethan squeezed her hand and insisted, "No, genuine optimism. A chance to win." She said, "I'm sick of fighting." Ethan leaned in and spoke loudly. "Just like you battled for me that night on the bridge. Let me fight for you." She opened her eyes to look into his eyes, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Why?" "Because," he said plainly, "I adore you. Furthermore, I'm not prepared to say goodbye." A flurry of medical paperwork, hurried consultations, and hurried arrangements filled the next 48 hours. From Lily's hospital room, Ethan worked non-stop, taking calls only when she wanted to take a break. The details were taken care of by his assistant, who made arrangements for a private medical transport to Boston, found lodging close to the treatment facility, and communicated with the experts who would be in charge of Lily's care. "This is what you're actually doing?" In a flash of insight between painkillers, Lily inquired. "Leaving your life behind for what may be a hopeless cause." Ethan stopped looking at his tablet's transport timetable. "Nothing worth keeping is being uprooted by me." It was an anxious flight to Boston. Lily's health had gotten so bad that a medical team traveled with them on Ethan's private jet, keeping an eye on her vitals the entire time. While Ethan silently bargained with whatever powers might be listening, she slept for the most part of the night with her hand loosely held in his. The experimental treatment section of Boston General Hospital appeared less like a healing center and more like a research facility. When they arrived, the lead researcher, Dr. Eleanor Chun, greeted them with a neutral professional look while evaluating Lily. As they helped Lily settle into her new room, Dr. Chun noted that the treatment plan is harsh. The autoimmune reaction is the immediate target of the first phase. The adverse effects might be severe and it is painful. From the bed, Lily said feebly, "Worse than dying?" Dr. Chen's face grew a little softer. "We've seen encouraging outcomes in individuals with comparable profiles, but there are no assurances." Ms. Brooks. Lily said, "Just tell me what to do." It was a terrible first week. Lily's already frail body was devastated by the treatment, which left her feeling sick and unable to eat, as well as alternately feverish and chilly. Except when he had to get medical supplies, Ethan stayed by her side. He dozed out in the uncomfortable recliner next to her bed, waking up the moment she moved. In a rare flash of insight, Lily told him, "You don't have to remain." Ethan looked up from the book he had been reading to her. "This isn't what you signed up for. Watching someone spew up every hour and sticking by you through whatever happens is actually precisely what I signed up for." Lily was stable enough to start the next stage of treatment by the second week. While afternoons permitted fleeting moments of normalcy, mornings were devoted to intensive rehabilitation. To divert her attention from the frequent medical interruptions, Ethan brought board games, movies, books, and anything else he could. During a particularly tough game of gin rummy one evening, Lily said abruptly, "Have you heard from your son?" Over the cards, Ethan's hand became motionless. "How did you find out that I've been attempting to contact him?" "I saw your face when your phone rang and the text you sent." She gave a shrug. "When I see hope, I know it." Ethan put his cards down. "Jacob still refuses to talk to me." He hesitated to say that his mother had presented a specific description of the circumstances. "Have you explained your whereabouts and activities to him?" "No." Ethan gave a headshake. Gaining sympathy or points is not the goal here. Lily touched his hand across the tiny table. "People sometimes need to see us for who we truly are, not just what they believe us to be." There was a slight change in the third week. The agony that had been Lily's constant companion started to subside. There were encouraging changes in her blood tests. Dr. Chun maintained a cautious sense of optimism. She informed Ethan during one of their regular sessions that the treatment was having a positive effect on her physique. "However, we must exercise realism. This isn't a remedy. At best, it's a managerial tactic." But Ethan pressed, "She's getting better." Dr. Chun cautiously consented for the time being. "The instance of Ms. Brooks is instructive. Her response is teaching us something." Ethan made plans for quick excursions as Lily's strength gradually improved. These included wheelchair trips to the hospital garden, a trip to the aquarium across the street, and, with permission from her physicians, a quick trip to a neighboring cafe. These tiny glimpses of everyday life turned into priceless memories. They saved moments against the uncertainty that still hung over them. Month 1 dragged into months 2 and 3. As winter descended upon Boston, Lily could observe the snow-covered hospital grounds from her window. Based on her reaction, the treatment was modified and continued. Her sickness had undoubtedly slowed, albeit some days had been better than others. One evening, as they were eating Thai food that had been smuggled in by a sympathetic nurse, Lily said to Ethan, "You should go back to New York, for a few days only. Check in on your business. Consult your attorneys." Ethan said, "The company's fine without me," but they both knew it wasn't totally accurate. Although he had been overseeing things from a distance, his extended absence hastened his withdrawal from day-to-day activities. Lily persisted, "At least give Jacob a call. Christmas is almost here." After a moment's hesitation, Ethan nodded. "I'll give it another go." He knew it would go to voicemail because it had done so dozens of times previously when he walked into the hallway to make the call. "Dad?" Jacob asked, startled. Ethan was moved by his son's voice, which was deeper than he remembered. "I appreciate you picking up, Jacob. According to Mom, you vanished. The business claims that you experienced a breakdown of some sort." Ethan closed his eyes and leaned against the wall. "I'm in Boston General Hospital in Boston. Are you ill?" Jacob's voice was colored with alarm. "Not me, please. Here, someone I care about is receiving treatment." There was a long silence. "Who was that diner woman?" "Mom discovered that you had been covering the medical expenses of a waitress." Ethan became enraged at the contemptuous tone. "Lily is her name." "Yes, I am assisting her. She's really sick." "Why? To you, what is she?" Ethan glanced at Lily through the doorway, chuckling quietly to herself as she tried to balance a fortune cookie on her nose. He said plainly, "She saved my life." One more moment of silence. A long pause ensued. "Mom told me you simply vanished." That you left everything behind for a stranger. Ethan shut his eyes. Jacob, I didn't go away. I've discovered something worthwhile. A sigh followed by another silence. A businessman donated a sizable anonymous donation to Metro General Hospital, according to an item I read online. It was easy to determine that it was you. Ethan said nothing, allowing his son to come to his own judgment. I don't understand, Jacob said. Why her? Ethan spoke quietly but firmly. Considering that she saved my life before I could rescue hers. The tone Jacob used when he spoke this time was milder. Perhaps I should visit you. He came back to Lily's room, and she smiled after glancing at his face. He replied, unable to talk due to the knot in his throat. Ethan nodded. You see, hope isn't always harmful, Lily replied quietly. Lily underwent yet another round of rigorous treatments as Christmas drew near. Therapy has been taxing for months. Her body was still weaker than before, and her once auburn hair had drastically thinned. Her laughter, however, came more naturally now that the spark had returned to her eyes. The day before Christmas Eve, they were summoned to a conference by the doctors. As Dr. Chun went over the most recent test findings, Ethan grasped Lily's hand tightly. She allowed herself a tiny smile and declared that the illness had stabilized. It's still there, and you'll require continuous care. However, we've stopped the advancement. With tears in her eyes, Lily turned to face Ethan. She muttered, That's all I ever wanted. Time. After a hard winter, Boston was revitalized by the arrival of spring. The hospital grounds, where Lily, now without help, went for her daily walks, were dotted with cherry blossoms. Her care had changed to a maintenance regimen that included daily pills and weekly infusions to keep her illness under control rather than cured. In order to manage what was left of his business ventures, Ethan converted the second bedroom of the tiny apartment he had rented close to the hospital into a home office. In his absence, the corporate acquisition had gone ahead, but Ethan had saved enough to launch a new venture when the time was ripe thanks to Jacob's surprising assistance. As Lily walked into the flat and tossed her keys in the bowl beside the entrance, she noticed, You're brooding again. Her cheeks were flushed with color that had been missing for a long time after she had returned from her monthly therapy. Ethan closed his laptop and amended himself. Not brooding, planning. How did you find today? As usual. Poor daytime TV, nurses chatting about Dr. Peterson's divorce, and me getting high on pricey medicines. She fell on the couch next to him. Tomorrow, Dr. Chun would like to visit us. Both of us. Ethan's chest constricted. Did she explain why? No, only that it's significant. The concern in Lily's eyes was hidden by her flippant tone. Unexpected encounters rarely delivered good news in their world. As they both knew. Neither slept well that night. Ethan was lying awake, cataloging the progress of the past few months, while he listened to Lily's breathing next to him. Her heightened vitality, her ability to ascend stairs without stopping, and the fact that her hunger had returned. He didn't think they were going to lose ground. Bright morning light filled Dr. Chen's office. She motioned for them to seat while greeting them with her customary taciturn smile. Lily started without introducing herself, and I've been discussing her case with colleagues around the nation. You've responded remarkably well to treatment. More prosperous than we could have imagined. Lily took hold of Ethan's hand. However, it is not feasible to continue this routine permanently. The approach was not intended to be a long-term fix, but rather an intervention. What do you say? Ethan's voice was tight as he asked. A folder was slid across Dr. Chen's desk. We have been asked to transfer your treatment to the Mayo Clinic for a new, extended trial. Patients like Lily who have reacted well to early treatment but require continued care are the special focus of this program. Lily carefully opened the folder. Minnesota. We should relocate to Minnesota, you say. The program has a 2-year expiration date and may be extended. An oral drug is being developed that may eventually take the place of the infusions. If it were to succeed, it would mean a typical life. Silently, Lily concluded. We're nearly one. What time would this begin? Ethan inquired. 2 months. Enough time to arrange. Dr. Chun glanced at each of them. Few patients get this chance, even though I am aware that it is another disruption. They processed the news as they strolled through the hospital yard in silence following the meeting. The dirt was pushed through by spring blossoms, early tulips, daffodils, and crocuses. After months of gray winter, adding color to the landscape, Lily finally tested the word and stated, "Minnesota. I've never visited that place. It is meant to be lovely. There are lakes all around, but cold. We'd purchase a suitable coat for you." Ethan gave a small smile. "In fact, we would purchase a whole winter wardrobe for you." Lily turned to him and stopped moving. "You've already put months of your life on hold, Ethan. You can't be asked to. You're not inquiring." Gently, he broke off. "I'm making an offer. How about your business? Your divorce proceedings? Jacob?" Ethan went through the emails that were accumulating in his inbox. He was encouraged to fight by his legal team. The members of his board were divided. Half wanted him gone, while the other half wanted him back to bring stability. The business wasn't really dead yet. He could claw his way back if he so desired. He demonstrated that he still had a place in courtrooms and boardrooms by spending months there. Alternatively, he may leave the empire to the vultures and start again at his own pace. For the first time, he found the decision simple after observing the hospital bed and Lily's steady, quiet breathing. Lily looked into his face. "I don't want to be your redemption tale or your project. Do you believe this to be that?" She said, "I don't know what this is anymore. You were prepared to jump off a bridge when we first met, and I was dying. As if we've been living in a bubble and you're scared of what will happen when it bursts. Everything since then has been amazing but suspended in some way," Lily said. "What if you come to the realization that this was just momentary insanity once things return to normal?" Ethan was done. "No, it wasn't. It's not." Then he took a small wooden box out of his pocket. Not a jewelry box or velvet, but something elegantly hand-carved. He opened it to show a plain key and stated, "I had this made by that artisan we met in Vermont. It's for a Lake Superior cottage. A modest space with a garden and a view of the lake, close enough to receive your treatments without becoming institutional, is all that is needed." Speechless, Lily gazed at the key. "I am not making a marriage proposal," Ethan added hastily. "I'm suggesting a future, no matter how it manifests or how long it endures. You purchased a home without informing me?" Although it faltered, Lily managed to find her voice. "I deposited money on it," he clarified. "Refundable. We'll find somewhere else if you don't like the notion, or if you'd like, you can travel to Minnesota by yourself." "Lily, I'm not attempting to dictate your decisions. I want to let you know that I'm on board with whatever you decide." Her eyes welled with tears. "I can't make you a permanent pledge. The physicians are still unsure if—" Ethan interrupted quietly, "I don't need forever. I only need you right now." Running her finger down the key's teeth, Lily accepted it. "Nobody has ever stood up for me like you have." He reminded her that you had been the first to fight for me on that bridge. "I believe we saved each other." A week prior to their planned departure for Minnesota, Ethan got a surprise call from his old employer. Ethan was offered a consultancy post by the new CEO, who was, ironically, a woman he had trained years before rather than Mark. Flexible hours, remote work, and an emphasis on the creative tasks he had always enjoyed most. When he broke the news to Lily, she said, "Seems the universe is conspiring to make this work." Jacob assisted in packing their final possessions into the moving truck on the morning of their departure. During his trips, he had become closer to both of them. He had been cautious of Lily at first, but she had won him over with her dark humor and unwavering honesty. "When you arrive, you'll give me a call." He hugged his father and requested, "Naturally. And you're going to come over spring break?" "Stop me, please." Jacob looked across at Lily. "Look after him, will you? Without supervision, he can be a bit of a mess." The morning air was filled with the brilliant sound of Lily's laughter. "I've observed." As the city was awakening, they left Boston by car and headed west toward a future that neither of them had foreseen a year before. Lily leaned over and held Ethan's hand halfway to their destination. Suddenly, she exclaimed, "I have an idea." A side trip. 2 hours later, in the middle of the day, They stood atop Harrington Bridge and gazed down at the location of their first encounter. In contrast to the dark abyss it had appeared to be that night, the water below glistened with reflected light. "You brought us here, but why?" Ethan inquired. Lily's face was turned to the sky as she rested on the railing. She said, "I used to be afraid of dying. All I want to do now is enjoy every moment." Inhaling the aroma of her hair and the warmth of her body on his, Ethan drew her near to him. He whispered, "You saved my life that night. I'll make sure you know it was worthwhile for the rest of my life." The two of them strolled hand in hand back to the car and headed west toward Minnesota, toward whatever time remained. Perhaps a month, a year, or even decades. Just two souls who decided to battle for every second they had left. No fairy tale, no promises of eternity. Ethan and Lily went back to the same location exactly 1 year after they had stood on Harrington Bridge. However, spring had arrived early this year, bringing with it a hesitant warmth that matched their cautious hope. The Minnesota winter had been harsh, just as they had expected. Neither had anticipated how fast the cabin on Lake Superior had become home. Along the stone path to the water, Lily had planted wildflowers and painted the kitchen a bright yellow. Ethan had developed a passion for woodworking and was making basic furniture for their lakefront porch. They would watch the sun set over the ocean while sitting there in the evenings, covered with blankets. The experimental program at the Mayo Clinic had shown promise. Lily's condition had stabilized even more thanks to her oral medicine regimen, which reduced the frequency of her hospital appointments from weekly infusions to monthly examinations. Instead of battling the illness all the time, her body was learning to live with it. "Should we?" As they got closer to the bridge, Ethan requested, extending his arm. Lily put her arm through his and nodded. Even while she still got fatigued more frequently than she would confess, she moved with greater assurance now. She looked younger and less worn down by illness since her hair had grown back thicker than before and curled about her face. As they had done a year earlier, they strolled to the middle of the bridge and paused, leaning against the railing. The city spread out in front of them, unaltered but entirely altered by their altered viewpoint. Lily watched a boat move down the river below and murmured, "Remember what I asked you here last time?" She reminded him, gently nudging his ribs. "You asked what I would do if I had 1 month to live," to which Ethan replied, "And you never answered." Ethan grinned. "I believed that when I realized I was falling for you, I was too surprised. And now? Now what would be your response?" Gazing out over the city where his empire had come and gone, where his marriage had ended, where his old life had come to an end and his new one had begun, he thought about the subject. "I wouldn't do anything different than what we're doing now," he concluded. "Apart from maybe focusing more on each day and worrying less about the future." Lily nodded, her face showing delight. "It's a good response. How about you? Has your response evolved?" She recalled that I had promised to love fearlessly and that I had tried, but this year I came to a realization. "What is that?" "The enemy isn't always fear." She looked him in the face. "Fear can often be nothing more than love struggling to preserve what is important." As they saw the river flowing beneath the bridge, a relaxed silence descended between them. In just 1 year, so much had changed. Only a 3-hour drive from their cottage, Jacob was doing well in his first year at college. Through his monthly visits, he was able to progressively mend his connection with his father and make an unexpected companion in Lily, who supported him while he completed his engineering courses. Ethan had always wanted to work in sustainable technology but had never had the time in his prior life. His remote consulting business had grown into a small startup dedicated to this field. He was able to accompany Lily to her visits while still creating something significant because he worked from their lakefront house. Lily remarked abruptly, "Dr. Chun called me yesterday. The most recent blood work reveals something intriguing," but she was hesitant to speak until she was certain. Beside her, Ethan stiffened. "Is it good or bad to be interesting?" "Good, I believe. Not only have the markers they used to monitor the activity of my condition stabilized, but they have also improved." "What does that signify?" Lily shrugged, attempting to look unconcerned, but her eyes showed how excited she was. "Although she hasn't used the word remission yet, She did mention that they could be able to lower my medication even more if this pattern persists. Careful not to grip too hard. Ethan drew her into a tight embrace. That's fantastic news. The caution they'd both learned to live with was clear in Lily's voice as she reminded him that it's not a cure. One more step. Every step matters, he said. Lily reached for Ethan's hand as the evening descended upon them, illuminating the sky with pink and gold hues. I haven't told you about anything else. Dr. Chun, any updates? No. Feeling abruptly uneasy, she shook her head. Ethan kept a close eye on her as he considered making the cottage more permanent. What does it mean to be more permanent? It indicates that I'm sick of having different bedrooms for Jacob's visits. We're sick of telling the neighbors that we're simply housemates. I'm sick of not being able to express who we are to one another. Sitting on their patio with the lake in front of them, Lily inhaled deeply while holding a steaming mug of coffee. What's humorous, she thought. I always believed that I wouldn't live long enough to meet someone who could make me feel this way. Intrigued, Ethan turned to face her. Such as? She grinned, but there was a vulnerable look on her face, as if she were saying, I belong here. Or, I'm not just surviving, I'm living. Reaching over, Ethan tucked a lock of hair behind her ear. Let's then formally announce it. Together, let's create something tangible. After examining him for a while, she grinned. Mr. Carter, are you making a proposal? It depends. Miss Brooks, do you mean yes? It was wonderful as he cupped her face in his hands. Thus, the answer is yes. Yes, that is true. As the last of the light left the sky, they kissed each other to solidify the commitment. There were no extravagant arrangements, diamond rings, or dramatic gestures. Just the straightforward reality of two individuals who had chosen to walk upward together after discovering one another at their lowest points. Lily stopped for a final glance at the bridge as they made their way back to their rental car, arms encircling one another to protect them from the nighttime chill. Thank you, she said in a whisper. For responding in the affirmative, Ethan inquired. For everything. For demonstrating to me that sometimes a story's conclusion marks the start of another. A dying woman and a damaged man, both on the verge of oblivion, were the ghosts of who they had been that night a year ago when they drove away from the bridge. The long drive back to Minnesota and their lakeside cottage awaited them, as well as whatever future they would create together. For the first time, this future felt not just possible but likely, with no happily ever after or fairy tale ending, only the resolve to face whatever lay ahead. Whether it be days or decades, side by side, two souls who had taught each other that survival was more than just breathing. It was about finding reasons to breathe that made each breath necessary. Have you ever hoped to find hope during the most difficult times in life? Ethan and Lily's story serves as a reminder that sometimes the most difficult situations can lead to the most profound new beginnings. If you also believe in the power of second chances, like this video and share it with someone who needs a reminder that tomorrow can be better than today. We would want to know where you are viewing this tale of tenacity and improbable love. From which nation are you following the trip of Ethan and Lily? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and remember to subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming tales that inspire us to consider the actual purpose of each day.